3 months in captivity, starved, sick, and barely clinging to life. A deadly infection was ravaging her body, and time was running out. If help didn't come soon, she was as good as gone. Meanwhile, 10,000 miles away, 24 Navy SEALs' cell phones lit up simultaneously. The decision had been made. The pirates didn't know it yet, but they were dead men walking.
Target!
Jessica Buchanan was living with her husband in one of Somalia's relatively safer regions. As part of an international aid organization, she and her Danish colleague Poul Hagen Thisted educated children about the dangers of landmines. It was dangerous work, but Jessica wasn't one to hide behind walls. She knew the risks, but pressed on with her mission. On October 25th, 2011, she and Poul were on their way back from an assignment near the so-called Green Line, the invisible border separating government-controlled areas from Islamist strongholds. That morning, something felt off. Their usual driver had been replaced by a stranger, an unfamiliar man sitting in the driver's seat of their Land Cruiser. Poul, in a hurry to leave, dismissed her concerns and climbed in. Reluctantly, Jessica followed. 10 minutes later, her worst fears came true. A massive truck swerved in front of them, forcing the convoy to an abrupt halt. 30 men with AK-47s poured out of multiple vehicles, shouting orders in a language Jessica couldn't understand. The humanitarian workers barely had time to react before the gunmen surrounded them. Jessica felt cold steel against her temple. Her security advisor was violently yanked from the car. A heavily armed man took the driver's seat and barked orders. The original driver obeyed without hesitation, proving he had been in on it all along. The convoy sped into the unknown. They stopped again moments later to switch vehicles, their captors shouting in chaotic bursts. Though the ambush had been well coordinated, the kidnappers were high on khat, a plant that acts like a stimulant, making them volatile and unpredictable. Then came the cruelest moment. Jessica and Poul were forced to kneel in the dirt and prepare for their execution. The pirates toyed with them, screaming orders they couldn't understand, pointing rifles at their heads, only to suddenly shove them back into the vehicle. It was all a game, a twisted show of power. For the pirates, the two hostages weren't people. They were dollar signs. Jessica and Poul were worth millions in ransom, but for now, they were nothing more than prisoners, completely at the mercy of their captors. Back in the US, the kidnapping hadn't gone unnoticed. Jessica's aid organization immediately reported the attack to the US Embassy in Nairobi, which escalated the situation to the FBI. Within hours, President Barack Obama had been briefed. Washington wasn't just aware of Jessica's abduction, her rescue became a top priority. Poul later admitted that the best thing that could have happened to him was being kidnapped alongside an American. He had no idea just how far the US would go to get her back. For nearly 3 months, Jessica endured hell. She battled starvation, scorching heat, and the daily fear of being beaten, or worse. The pirates demanded a $45 million ransom, but negotiations stalled when even a $1.5 million offer, enough to set them up for life, was refused. To make matters worse, Jessica developed a severe urinary tract infection. The untreated illness spread rapidly, poisoning her body. Without medical intervention, it could be fatal. Desperate, she and Poul recorded a final plea for help, begging the US government to pay the ransom before it was too late. That night, Jessica looked up at the stars and prayed. Thousands of miles away, her prayers were answered. For weeks, SEAL Team 6's Blue Squadron trained relentlessly. Day and night, they drilled for one mission: rescuing Jessica Buchanan. Her desperate voice from the hostage video haunted them. These warriors had hunted the worst of humanity across the globe, but when it came to saving women and children, their resolve burned even hotter. January 25th, 2012. The time had come. President Obama himself had given the green light. 24 of America's finest would risk their lives to free both hostages unharmed. Their plan? Parachute into Somalia, then approach the pirate camp on foot to avoid alerting the enemy. At the US operations base in Djibouti, 500 miles away, everything, personnel, intelligence, firepower, was mobilized. The price tag had already soared past $100 million. America was willing to pay whatever it took to save its own. With preparations complete, the SEALs boarded their C-130 transport. Their pilots, having just finished a 9-hour flight, climbed right back into the cockpit as if it were another day at the office. Watching from the White House, the president and his team followed the operation via live feed. Then fate intervened. The pirates, planning to relocate that very night, had eaten spoiled meat. Food poisoning kept them in place. Meanwhile, a violent solar storm slammed into Earth's magnetic field, disrupting radio signals. No communications, no quick reaction force, no close air support. If things went south, the SEALs would be on their own. Wind speeds had doubled past the threshold for mission cancellation. But this wasn't just any mission. Every one of the 24 men on board was willing to take the risk. After 3 hours in the air, they reached the drop zone. Rising from their seats, the SEALs hooked up their oxygen tanks and leapt into the night, falling more than 20,000 feet at speeds exceeding 120 miles per hour. The wind was brutal. Several operators were dragged hundreds of yards across the savannah before they could detach from their chutes. Regrouping, they donned combat gear and moved out. The next challenge? A blistering 100-degree march through enemy territory. For nearly an hour, they moved in silence, adjusting their approach to keep the wind in their faces, eliminating any chance of their scent giving them away. Every detail mattered. At 500 meters from the pirate camp, they reached their last point of cover. A hostage rescue isn't like a typical raid. The hostage's life matters more than killing the enemy. The SEALs would run straight through machine gun fire if that's what it took to save Jessica. Justin Sheffield, an experienced operator, led the team. With a silent hand signal, the SEALs spread wide, maximizing their firepower while avoiding friendly fire. Snipers took up positions, scanning for threats through their thermal scopes. Then, movement. A nervous sentry stirred, waking the others. The SEALs quickened their pace, still moving like ghosts. Sheffield marked a Somali guard with his laser. His teammates silently followed suit. The pirates couldn't see the invisible infrared beams, but they sensed something. With a metallic clack, they racked their PKM machine guns, scanning the darkness. The SEALs surged forward. Noise discipline no longer mattered, speed did. Then, hell broke loose. The pirates opened fire, their machine guns spitting deadly 7.62mm rounds into the night. Snipers responded instantly, silencing the enemy gunners before picking off new targets with ruthless precision. The SEALs pushed forward, bullets snapping past them. Failure wasn't an option. The French had lost a hostage in a similar mission because they weren't fast enough. The SEALs wouldn't make that mistake. Near the center of the camp, 2 pirates loomed over Jessica, AKs in hand. Sheffield and another operator broke from formation, eliminating them with pinpoint shots. Jessica crouched in terror until Sheffield threw himself over her, shielding her from crossfire with his own body. More SEALs piled on, forming a human shield. These men had wives and children of their own, but in this moment, her life mattered more than theirs. Another operator secured Poul Thisted, the second hostage. Within minutes, all 9 pirates lay dead. Sheffield hoisted Jessica onto his shoulders and sprinted out of the camp, SEALs surrounding them in a protective circle. They still had to make it to the extraction zone. Every distant noise sent the SEALs dropping into defensive positions, covering Jessica and Thisted with their bodies. They weren't taking chances. Then, finally, the sound of rotor blades. A Black Hawk descended. Jessica ran toward it with everything she had left. 3 months of captivity, endless nights of fear. Over. On board, as the helicopter lifted off, an operator knelt beside her, unfolded an American flag, and placed it in her hands. Welcome home, Jessica. If you've made it this far, thank you for watching. If you'd like to support our work, drop a like and let us know your thoughts on the rescue. Should the US government have simply paid the ransom to secure the hostages' release peacefully? Or was sending SEAL Team 6 the right call, staying true to the motto, "We do not negotiate with terrorists"? Whatever your take, we're eager to hear your opinions in the comments. A special thanks to Justin Sheffield. His book, Mob 6, played a huge role in shaping this video. This book takes you inside the world of SEAL Team 6, sharing raw, unfiltered accounts of high-risk missions like this one. You can purchase Mob 6 by clicking the link at the lower left side of the screen and in the description below. Trust us, you won't want to miss this read.